I'm Adam Hodges with the Rocky Mount Chamber Small Business Committee. Today, we're here with Elite Overhead Garage Doors to celebrate them as September's Small Business of the Month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As part of this award, you're eligible for our June celebration to be considered for our Small Business of the Year. That'll happen next June. Encourage everybody to participate in that event. And certainly for the other small businesses that are watching this, I encourage you to submit your nominations and would love to come celebrate your business soon.
We are joined by Jet Haitu,
Yes.
and you were right in the front a minute ago, and congratulations.
Thank
We're really,
you.
really proud of y'all, and we're going to be talking to AJ. He is going to, folks, you're going to love this, he is going to give us, we're going to go to a garage door in the back here, and he's going to give all these tips and all this information, and just really going to have a good time with him, kind of playing with garage doors. But you started this business, what, about a year ago?
March 2022, yes.
Why? What attracted you? I mean, one would not think a beautiful young girl would go in the garage door business, but why?
Well, my husband and I, let me step back
Okay.
and preface. He had worked as an apprentice for a garage door company in the Raleigh market.
Mm-hmm.
And he had people asking him, hey, can you come work on my doors on the weekends?
Mm-hmm.
And so after him and I were talking, we realized that there was a big need here. And my words to him were, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little nervous. I was a little nervous. And so I said, let's go. So I pulled my big girl pants on and started it. And so here we are 16 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Just really excited about it.
And growing, got another employee. We're going to meet Matt when we go back and work on the garage or look at the garage door. You are no stranger to taking a leap, though. And let's go ahead and pull your book out right
Sure.
now. I mean, it's kind of in your DNA to jump into things completely. Kind of give us your history for why you were comfortable to say, let's start this business. Because a lot of people watching might think, whoa, that's a big step.
Yeah, so I was actually in the corporate world for several years. I was in management. So I managed a team and businesses around me. And I found myself running that corporate business like it was my own. And I saw success year over year over year. And I was giving 150% to it. And when we started this, I was trying to teeter-totter between working that full-time job plus doing this at the same time. And at one point, I said, you know, if I gave 150% to my business that I have given to someone else's business and seen that growth, where could we be? And now look at us 16 months later.
Right.
So when I did quit my corporate job last year in September, I said, you know, I'm not going to hold myself back. I'm going to do everything that I've ever wanted to do. One of them was to write a book. So I wrote a motivational journal. It's motivational, inspirational. So it has journaling in it, affirmations, chapters in here on how to gain the motivation to be able to get to where you want to go. So.
What type of, were you in Rocky Mount, were you working for a company here, and were these some of the things that you learned to do there?
Yes, I was working for it was actually a worldwide company, but that was located primarily in Rocky Mount, and we covered all of Eastern North Carolina. And just through the 7 years, I started kind of documenting. You know, journaling is a way to release emotions, and I started just documenting what motivates me, how am I motivated, and then I started reading self-help books, you know, and so it coincides with my journey and along with what I had read and worked through, and so I took it and wrote it based off of my experience.
Well, when we were getting ready to come here, I called the WIG and I said, where are they located? And she said, well, I think they started in their home and now they have an actual bricks and mortar location. So you did start in your home.
We did.
And start just accumulating materials and adding on. And
We did, and we actually started in a 2011 Chevy Malibu.
oh, okay, even better.
Yeah, we have a little shed outside of our home that we would store all of our stuff in. And after about 6 months of being in business, the opportunity for this location on 301 came available. And so now we do have a warehouse and we have an office that we are able to store and keep an inventory in.
Are you finding that you're doing more and more services, or at least faster because of the warehouse, than when you started out, or how have you grown with materials and knowledge?
Well, we keep certain products that we use most often here, whereas when we first started, it was ordering as we were getting the jobs. So now we do see that we have a quicker turnaround time, and we can provide the more quality service because we'll say, oh, we have that in our vehicle. You know, there are still some jobs that we have to order things for, but having the warehouse and having the inventory of our most needed items that we are seeing in our area is definitely beneficial.
Are you finding that since COVID that things are catching up such that you're able to get things that you weren't maybe during right after that when supply chain was hurt?
Well, from the experience of our former technician and his former job, there was a huge supply chain issue when he was working for that other company. We don't necessarily see that now. Where we see is the price change. You know, the prices that people were paying COVID or pre-COVID are not what they are today.
Well, so your acquisition costs probably have gone up, so you have to pass that on or you can't stay in business.
Yep.
Quite a bit. I mean, I'm sure you're giving the best deals possible to your customers, but it is kind of, it's awkward when people say, well, gosh, a few years ago it cost so-and-so and now whatever. But are most of the doors and the products you have, are they made stateside or do they have to come from overseas?
Some things we do purchase from other parts of the country, but we try to use local AMAR doors. So AMAR is a supplier. They have, right there on our on our thing. Their headquarters is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They also have a manufacturing plant in North Carolina where they do produce some of their products. So we want to try to make sure we keep our services and what we're providing here in our local state. But like our springs and stuff come from other areas of the country, and then we only use LiftMaster. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure where those are made.
Well, how much are you involved, Jed, in the day-to-day? I mean, do you run the office? Do you do the marketing? What are the different roles between you and AJ?
I'm in sales, marketing, networking, branding. I get our name out there so people know who we are, what we do. And then AJ does the kind of the daily operations. He handles our team of technicians and does the scheduling. I help with scheduling and answering phones. So I'm really behind the scenes.
Do you, when you go out with him, are you finding that you're slowly able to learn a little more and more about it so you can put in your 2 cents, especially if there's a lady who looks to you and thinks, what do you think I ought to do? So.
That's funny. I had a phone call the other day and I answered the phone and what she was explaining, I was like, well, go outside and look at your springs. And she goes, well, how do you know this? And I hear about it enough. I'm not in the field like I would like to be because I do a couple of other things in our community. But I have been on enough jobs and learned enough to where I am well versed in how to explain something to someone if they're needing it. And then I'll let our technicians handle the remaining portion.
What's your goal? Or do you even know your goal? I mean, I feel like with somebody like you, the sky's the limit, but would you expand beyond garage doors? Do you see yourself, just getting bigger, maybe franchising? I mean, what? Go for it, Jet.
That is our 5-year plan. When we first started this, we want to franchise.
Okay.
And as we are growing, we do have 3 technicians. You met AJ and Matt. Well, we do have another young lady. Her name is Haley. She is a part-time helper with us. But we're trying to grow into other markets and franchise. We have added other services since we have been in business, including commercial door pumps. So on commercial doors at like restaurants and stuff, we've replaced those for several companies. And then we're working on box truck springs. So we are thankful for the community to allow us to work on those so that we have the opportunity to learn and then add that to our list of services. So we're growing every day.
And if you franchise, will you keep Rocky Mountain as your home? You need to. You have to.
Of course.
We gave you your start. So. Are there training courses? I mean, you talk about learning on the job and you're thankful for people, giving you opportunities, but are there places like that, if you brought in somebody new, you could send them off and they could really get a crash course on how to do it, or is it better to just learn on the job as you go?
It's a mix of both. So we are a member of the International Door Association. So it is a garage door entity, and it's a group, and we attend conferences every year. We just recently went to Louisville in April, we met other suppliers and we met other people that can assist us in learning. And we have, I think AJ did a training while we were there so that we can continue to add to our services. But on-the-job training is honestly the best way to learn. You can't really learn everything from a textbook.
Well, we're going to go and let him teach us some stuff. We're going to take a quick break and do that. And then at the end, you're going to come back. One of the real strong things the Chamber looks at in order to award the Small Business of the Month is what you've done for the community, and you have done a lot for the community. So we'll be back with you in a little bit. We're in the working place, folks. So we've got AJ Hatu, married to Jed, of course, and Matt Rizzo. Glad to have you here. And I hear you're not going to talk a whole lot, right?
No, not me.
Well, we are really glad that you joined us because he is your star employee, right?
Yes, ma'am. We both work. He's an employee, I'm an employee, and we work together. And he's been with us for how long now, Matt? About a year and a half?
Okay, well, good. Well, I really like when we can show people stuff. I mean, it makes the show much more interesting if you say, this might be happening to your garage, and here's how you need to maintain it. So, first off, one of the things you said was a garage door needs to be checked annually, right?
Yes.
Why?
So every year or so you want to check a garage door because of the weight of the spring. These springs need to be adjusted about every year or two. So the way to check it, this door is a manual door. There's no motor on it right now. So pretend we had a motor. You would just pull your red string and release it from the motor. And that way you can run it by hand. So you want to check it. You want to go up. Matt, can you unlock that, please? You want to go up by hand and see if it stays up. Like right now, this door is a little heavy. It doesn't stay all the way up. You want it to stay all the way up. It's going to droop a little bit, so this spring needs to be adjusted. The way to check it is when you bring it back down, you want to make sure that you see how it's staying. That's a good sign. That means it's balanced. If you go like this, you let go and it comes down hard like that, that means your spring needs to be adjusted.
AJ, the chances that I would know how to adjust the spring, though, are like zero. So if I wanted to hire you, do you do like on an annual basis, you'll come and check everything out for somebody?
Yes, ma'am. We do have tune-up packages where we'll come out and we'll adjust your spring. We'll check your hinges. These are also very important because if the door gets heavy, it can create damage to these hinges and put extra strain on these hinges, and they can start cracking right along here.
Ooh.
And then you could also, this cable here, it's connected to the drum, which is connected to the shaft to the spring. These also can become frayed if the door is heavy. Now, also another thing that can happen when your door is heavy is it can damage your motor if you have a motor on your door. All the motors now, they're all plastic on the inside, just like everything else. Not made the greatest, so that way you want to make sure that your door is balanced, because your motor doesn't pick up your door. Your motor just moves it. So if this is heavy for your arm, it's heavy for that motor, and it can damage those plastic gears on the inside.
What's the shelf life of a motor now?
Now, if you keep a door balanced like you're supposed to and do your regular maintenance, motors can last 25, 30 years, no problem.
Even the plastic ones?
Even the plastic ones. LiftMaster, that's who we install. They offer a lifetime warranty on their motor.
How about that?
And that's the reason why I only install LiftMaster, because they have the best support, best warranty, make a great product. All their new stuff now comes with the built-in MyQ app that you can control with your phone. Some of the motors have cameras. Some of them have backup batteries. So if your power were to go out, you would, if you have a big door and you're trying to open it, you don't have to open it yourself. You can use their motor 4 or 5 times with no power.
How about that?
Backup battery.
But you had to buy one that has that.
A backup battery option in it, yes ma'am.
Okay.
And the belt drives now, they all have built-in cameras. So you can have your motor sitting there live streaming your garage door 24 hours a day.
That's pretty cool. Are you finding more and more people are putting in those safety, those security guard type things?
Now with the apps, when we install a motor and we download the app for the customer, if there's an issue with the door, the motor will send us an email.
We don't want to ignore you. So.
The motor will send us a notification saying, okay, Gene's motor is giving us this issue, either excessive force or a sensor issue, for example, or whatever the issue is. We get an error code from you, and we get a notification from the app knowing that exactly the customer's address, customer's name, and phone number, so we can call you right away and say, hey, what's going on with your motor? Did you resolve it? Do you need to make an appointment? So it's very streamlined now. They're not your even in the last 5 years, the motors have changed so much.
Well, you scared me when we were talking a little bit ahead of time because you said some of the things on the ceiling can come loose, and
So-
the thought of having some of this stuff fall on my car, that's big
It's
time.
rare, but it can happen. So you have at the very end here, you have these track bolts. Mine is a commercial door, so it's all welded.
Uh-huh.
But even welding sometimes can become weak. So you always want to just make sure when we come up and do a tune-up, we check all of that. We check all of the connections, your anchors. We check all your track bolts, make sure everything's connected and not loose. I've never seen a track come all the way off, but I've seen tracks that are almost all the way off.
Well, I get my HVAC checked a couple times a year because they say it lasts
Right.
longer and whatnot. And now that I'm listening to you, I would think it would be a lot less expensive if to avoid some big.
Yes,
fix.
so I'll give you an example. Let me
Okay.
cut you off. So these rollers, a lot of companies, for some reason, they don't replace them. I don't know why. When the spring breaks,
Uh-huh.
you're supposed to replace them. Do you know why springs break?
No.
10,000 cycles.
Oh.
So when the garage door goes down, up and down one time,
Uh-huh.
that's one time, so you get 10,000 of those.
Don't let your kid play with it. Then right.
It takes away from the life of the spring, right? So once it breaks, you want to replace that spring, obviously.
Uh-huh.
These rollers also have that same 10,000 cycle limit. So once they get past that limit, the bearings in them will start to go bad, and you'll start to be able to roll it freely.
And what's wrong with that?
You see how it's rolling
It
so
won't
freely?
go up and down if it's rolling freely.
What'll happen is the bearings are gone.
Uh-huh.
There's no control anymore.
Oh.
So you'll have one side that might go down faster than the other, or one might get stuck, or this roller head will break off the stem. That's the only thing that keeps the door inside the trap.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't replace these rollers, it's just like riding on bald tires. Eventually, what's cheaper, to replace the tires when they're almost bad, or
Mhm.
to replace a tire when it blows and you've messed up your car?
And we were talking about, I guess, do you mind if we give the price for an annual maintenance?
Sure.
It's $125, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that include?
That includes us lubricating the door, tightening all these little small bolts that need to be tightened, adjusting the spring if it needs to be adjusted, checking the cables, checking the balance of the door, checking the motor, making sure it's opening and closing properly where it's supposed to, checking your bottom seals. A lot of people have, over years, 10, 15 years, these seals, they're rubber.
Mm-hmm.
The sun hitting them constantly, they tend to shrink sometimes.
Oh,
So and that's why you'll see like the very ends of garage doors sometimes gaps.
Uh-huh.
So you want to make sure you're replacing it so that way you don't have lizards and snakes
And dirt.
just coming
Uh-huh.
inside your garage because your
And
seal
it-
isn't replaced.
Super hot in the summertime and in the wintertime.
Insulation
it helps.
as well.
And let's talk about the insulation because I think this is insulation.
This is
right?
insulation, correct.
Can people add it if they have a garage door that doesn't?
You
already-
can,
Okay.
but do not add it yourself. A lot of customers will get to a house where they've added the insulation themselves,
Have you
and-
seen that, Matt?
I have.
It's not
And-
pretty, huh?
and it adds extra weight. People are like, well, it's not, it's just one piece. I'm like, yeah, that one piece is not that heavy, but when you have, here you have 3, 6, 9, 12 pieces,
Uh-huh.
this adds probably about 10 pounds.
Whoa, okay.
And that affects the spring. The door is too heavy then.
And the door was made for
For-
the weight before you added
Exactly. So when garage doors are made, you get a whole
Uh-huh.
assembly for the weight of the door. So that 10 pounds, I'll give you an example. You want to take a look over there?
Mm-hmm. Is that the
So
insulation?
we installed 2 new doors for a gentleman about 3 months ago, and he got the doors non-insulated. He called me last week, said that he needs his doors insulated now. He's putting AC and heat. So we're going to put in new insulation, but we're also going to replace his springs because the springs that came with the door originally were not made for that weight. Even though it's foam, but it's about 10 pounds worth of foam.
Yeah, it is foam because I've even seen my next door neighbor was bragging about he ordered them online and put them in himself.
And I guarantee you, if you go to test his door, it's going to be a little heavy. It's going to come down fast. And that, over time, it starts cracking your hinges. It starts fraying your cables. It starts wearing out it just creates all kinds of problems for you. So if you want it done and done right, call a garage door company. Let them install it for you.
I was doing a cooking show with Jet,
Mhm.
cuisine with Jean, and I said, we have a garage door. We've been in this house over years. We don't have any warranty, but it goes clang, 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 clang,
Mhm.
clang. And she said, well, I will get AJ to come over and look at it. So people who have noisy doors, I mean, you were able to tell what it was right away, and it was fixable.
Yes.
What are some examples? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching think, well, mine clatters.
Usually, a noisy door is an indication that something is wrong. Either your door needs to be lubricated, your rollers are worn out, and they're just very loud. The bearings in them are gone.
Which wasn't the case, because this was 1-year-old house.
Which wasn't the case at your house.
Yeah, they put in the wrong.
They put in the wrong springs at your house, and the door was heavy in certain areas, and it was causing a lot of extra strain. That's why your motor and your stuff was loud.
But I saw your ad on WIG where you say, are your neighbors bothered by the sound of your door? And I mean, it would start going up and just make so much noise. And I thought, this is kind of embarrassing to have a new house, and it sounds like it's falling down when the garage door goes up.
And it all depends too. Like, we don't do a whole lot of new construction because construction companies don't. They want the cheapest bid, and they want the cheapest material, and they want the cheapest motor. I refuse to. If I'm not going to put that door on my house, I'm not going to put it on the customer's house. The door is supposed to be quiet. If it's loud, there's an issue going on. Now, sometimes you have motors like chain drive motors or what they call screw drive motors. Now, those are going to be a little bit louder. That's normal. But if your door, if you open it and close it by hand and it sounds like it's scrubbing or it's grinding or it's not moving smoothly, it's herky-jerky, it needs to be like that.
Just clang, clang, type of things. Yeah.
Right.
Was that good?
Yeah, there you go.
Do you want to give us an example of what you hear? Is that, are those the noises you hear too?
Oh yeah, and the trim popping, that's a big one too.
Trim popping.
So when painters paint the house, sometimes they will get a little bit of paint on the back of the trim, and when that heats up in the sunlight, the trim will stick to the sheet metal of the door. And when the person goes to lift the door, it'll cause a loud popping and jerking motion on the door.
So my takeaway here is very few people can do what you're talking about. I mean, I could check these, but the spring, I would have no idea. I mean, it's not something that... And
I would highly recommend, if you don't know how to work on garage doors, please don't work on garage doors. We've had a few customers hurt themselves trying to replace a roller. Like, for example, this bottom roller. A lot of guys would be like, yeah, I can replace my own rollers. We went to a house, we replaced a spring, and he said he didn't want to replace his rollers with this, he wanted to do it himself. A week later, he called us, and he's like, hey, I'm sitting on a porch, come replace my rollers and fix this spring, because I hurt myself. So we got out there, he was wearing flip-flops. He had to get 3 stitches in his toe, in his foot.
Wow.
He released this when the door was down. This is under tension. So the spring right now is fully invoked. It's turned all the way. It's got all the turns on it. So if you go to release that, that cable is connected to that bottom bracket. That cable is going to fly.
Wow.
So you got to be careful. I know a lot of guys like to do stuff themselves, a lot of do-it-yourself people. I'm one of them. But I know my limits. I know if I feel like I'm in any kind of danger or I don't know what I'm doing, like me, electricity, I'm not going to touch it.
Good.
I'll pay anybody any amount they ask. I'm not going to mess with it. Just know your limits. Be mindful when you're working and try to call a professional if you can.
And AJ, if you come and people say, I'd like to replace the motor for it, you can give them all the various examples of what, like with the security camera and being able to do it remotely and whatnot.
So we have. I always keep pictures on my phone. I could show them all the different kinds of motors that we have, descriptions of warranties, what's involved in doing the motor. We never start a job without telling you what the price is going to be first. I'm not going to show up to your house and just start working and then tell you, oh, you owe me $800. Not how we work. I know the other employees the same way. They always start, okay, what's the issue? All right, this is what it's going to cost. We give customers all of the options and we let them decide. It's their money. If you can't make someone comfortable in their own home, you shouldn't be going to their house, period. Well,
that's what you did for me. So our personal
thank you for letting us in your home.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you so much, and we're going to talk to Jet briefly about all the great things y'all do for the community. Okay. But thank you. I appreciate you joining us. Jet, that was fun. We had a good time, and that's in the back from where we are right now.
Yes.
And, AJ loves what he does, doesn't he?
He definitely does. Sometimes I can't get him to stop talking about doors and the jobs that he does.
Well, and I saw such integrity and such honesty. I mean, with integrity, of course, but he really wants to be sure that everybody's satisfied and wants to be sure that they have all the options and that, you know, he just, when he walks away, it's, as he said, it's like I want to do what I would do for my own home.
Exactly.
Which is wonderful. And speaking of doing for other people in the community, tell us what you do. I mean, I think I was reading the form and it said, I'm everywhere. And I think that's true because we really do see you everywhere. What are some of the things that you really enjoy doing, giving back to the community?
Gosh, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I did play softball. That's how I ended up here in Rocky Mount. I did play for North Carolina Wesleyan. It's now a university. But I spent so many years playing the sport and perfecting the sport that I now give my time and donate and volunteer my time to the city of Rocky Mount. I have done softball camps for them. I do coach for the city of Rocky Mount, and then I coach a travel ball team that's stationed right here in Rocky Mount. So
wonderful.
I devote my time there.
What age kids? Is it girls? Is it all girls?
It is young girls. I have coached boys. They're 10 and under, so it's a range between like 7 and 11, and we play local tournaments. And
wonderful. And have plenty of people to play? I mean, are there plenty of other teams nearby?
Oh, of course. Red Oak is actually a really large area that they host tournaments at, so it's all local.
And what time of year do you do that?
The spring and the fall is where we try to play on most of our tournaments because that's where the good weather is.
Well, and in the chamber, I mean, I think you've done about every volunteer job there is at the chamber. Talk about that, please.
Yes. If it weren't for the chamber, I don't think we would truly be here. I give kudos to them and all of their support. So I am a chamber ambassador.
And tell people what that means if they don't know. Please.
So I represent the chamber as a small business entity, but also an individual that helps support other small businesses in our area. So it is my job and my duty to, one, support the chamber, but to attend small business celebrations like we had today, and then to attend ribbon cuttings and to just promote the positivity that the chamber is bringing.
And how have you benefited from that personally?
Just the networking pieces. Everybody knows who I am now because of just being a member of the chamber. I'm also the chair of the marketing committee with the chamber for what I have taken on in the marketing that I complete for Elite Overhead Garage Doors. It's really been noticed. So David Ferris actually reached out to me personally and was like, I want you to chair this committee. So I volunteer my time to help the chamber grow as well.
Well, and small business is the backbone of our chamber. And a lot of people don't have your background to know how to do it in the corporate world and whatnot. And so for you to lend those skills to others is really nice. You're in Rotary?
I am. I joined in Rotary a year ago. Again, after I quit my corporate job, I felt like I needed to get into something. You know, I was a member of the Junior Guild. I loved to volunteer and give back. And then I saw Rotary as a little more of a business acumen, you know, or business aspect, and giving back with Rotary.
And you can really advise other new businesses in town or ones who have just come here to say, you know, here's what I've done, and the marketing aspect of the chamber. Anything else with the chamber? I guess I'm sure that you sponsor some of their events too.
Sponsor events. We sponsor teams here for, you know, the city of Rocky Mount. You know, I do a lot of pro bono work. There's a Ride for Honor coming up, Veterans Day. I'm doing all of their marketing.
Great.
So just giving back to the community, whether I'm in the face or whether I'm not, and I'm just behind the scenes any way that I can.
Why is that important to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. The community truly helps and helped build our business. And even prior to our business, I was always active in the community because I want to make sure that I'm giving back. There's always a reward for, you know, giving back to other people and not expecting something in return. And so, you know, I feel like there are people and underserved people in our area that do need that. So I want to make sure that if I'm capable and able, that I want to give back to them.
Well, we sure appreciate it. We need more people like you in our community. Jet, thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for joining us.